what I learned from my mentor, the gentleman that was worth about $150 million, right, developer in Washington, D.C., is he had a series of these life insurance strategies in which he flowed all of his, capital expenditures, repairs. Sometimes he'll get a big refinance and he'll put his money in here and he stuffed it in here. And these things give you 4 to 6% compounded over your lifetime. And what's really, really cool about him, and one of the reasons why, this gentleman was able to do all of this by himself, is your money, when you put it in there, is going to work for you 4 to 6%. And you can leverage it like a line of credit and go out and buy real estate, which is the reason why I was able to purchase all these birds. I was just able to recycle and replenish my capital over these past couple of years, is you can leverage it like a line of credit and your money is still compounding at that 4 to 6%.
This is the Yield Coach Show, Season 1, Episode 17. I'm your host, Ian Brown. In every episode, we bring you dynamic entrepreneurs, real estate investors, business leaders, and inspirational guests ready to open up, share their story, the good, the bad, the ugly, so you can learn lessons, gain advantages, and accelerate your success. A couple of housekeeping announcements. Make sure you follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Yield Coach for instant updates and occasional live feeds of the show. Also, we are opening our doors to outside investors in some of our upcoming 2022 real estate endeavors, and that would be ideally for both accredited and non-accredited investors. So if you have interest in investing alongside with Yield Coach, you can email me at ian@yield-coach.com. Again, ian@yield-coach.com if you want to get on our investor list. And as I mentioned before, our e-course Employee to Entrepreneur is live and available at yield-coach.com or via the link in our Instagram bio. All right, I'm very excited about today's guest. Today's guest is Clay Hepler. He is the founder of the Creative Capitalist brand. He is a multifamily investor, an educator, and a cash flow specialist. He is the chief wealth strategist at Creative Capitalist. He has scaled a family company from 2 states to 42 states in only 18 months, partnered with big names in the restaurant space like Jeffrey Zakarian from Iron Chef. He also has an interesting take on using life insurance as a investment/savings vehicle. We'll let him get into that. And he helps entrepreneurs with their real estate investments and implementing cash flow banking through some of those insurance products. His goal is to help 10,000 entrepreneurs and real estate investors in achieving their goals by December of 2024. That's quickly approaching, Clay. And on the investment side, he has done 75 wholesales or flips as director of acquisitions, and he has 14 units under management, including a luxury Airbnb in Colorado and another 8 units under contract. Clay, great to have you on the show. How are you?
I'm tremendous. That was a great introduction, and actually have one thing to change. I've got 15 units under contract now. We just got a 7 unit for a burr. So we're
excellent.
We're still rocking and rolling in the real estate front. Love what's going on still, and excited to be on the show here.
That means you're very active, because I'm reading an intake form from just a few weeks ago. So you've already thrown some more under contract. Good for you.
Absolutely.
Well, you're a young man with an impressive developing and emerging resume. Give us a little bit on your background.
Yeah, so failed diplomat. I was going to, my goal in life, Ian, was to be a ambassador, to be a diplomat. And I was working for the embassy in Buenos Aires a couple of years ago. And I wanted to be the ambassador, wanted to go down that path. And it just didn't work out, really. I was very sort of corporate. I had to spend the 5 years stamping passports and then the 10 years after this, and it was very disenchanting. So what I did was took some time off of college. We already talked about in the intro, helped scale my family luxury chocolate company from 2 to 42 states. Still not super active in the business, have sort of an equity portion in the business. I left that business about 2.5 years ago, but it's still churning. We just got some amazing awards called the Sophie Awards, which is the highest award that a specialty food can get in the world. We got 3 of the gold Sophie Awards, so that's super exciting. and now after I was in the family business, I left the family business, met a gentleman that was worth about $150 million. Sort of served as an arm's length mentor for me, who's a developer in Washington, D.C., multifamily offices, and had some specialty shops. That's the relationship that I was able to establish with him through my family's business and me being in the sales role. And he taught me about, hey, Clay, you got to buy real estate. You have to own businesses. You have to have life insurance and tax strategies and all these things that the wealthy people know, but the majority of people don't. And so I started to implement the things that he told me to implement, kind of like a disciple, right? Joined a local real estate firm. And when I joined the firm, we basically started doing wholesaling, and I scaled that business in a year to 75 deals in its first year of wholesaling. And as I was telling you here, I recently resigned from my job, quit my job, and now I'm focusing completely on a lot of the tactics and the strategies that I learned from him, implementing them in my own life, Airbnbs, multifamily properties, as well as really catering a wealth building strategy for entrepreneurs and real estate investors using life insurance as a place to basically put your opportunity fund and use that and create a savings account that's going to yield you much higher than if you were to just have it in the bank, and going to give you asset protection and really accelerate your path to financial freedom. So what I do today is I'm a real estate investor, but primarily my firm helps real estate investors create, protect, and multiply their cash flow.
Now, Clay, the job that you left, is that the job where you were doing the wholesaling and flips? Was it the real estate company? Okay. Now, even though you just left that company, it is relevant to the audience. If we just take a few minutes to unpack some of that. So you scaled that up on the wholesaling and flips. And for those, I think most of the audience knows, but a wholesale is a contract assignment for a fee. So Clay's company would put a property under contract and then sell that contract or assign it for a fee. And it's a low risk. It's a low risk position to take, and it's actually quite popular in like frothy economies, especially when there's a lot of buyers like there are now. Clay, I think I'd like you to mention what market were you doing that in, and what were some of the more effective outbound marketing techniques to get deals under contract?
Yeah, we were almost all digital. We did a ton of Google ads and a ton of Facebook ads, and that's how we mixed with the same channels that everyone knows: direct mail, texting, cold calling. We stopped at the end doing texting and cold calling because it's kind of rude. Like, no one really likes to be texted, no one likes to be cold called, and you just get a lot of people that got angry. There's all these TCPA laws that you can get sued, and so we were like, we really don't want to be sued. We want to have a good client experience when we purchase these homes. So we ended up just sort of having an inbound strategy. It was expensive, but we were really able to create a scalable model through that. So we just dominated Google ads, dominated Facebook ads, and that's how we brought deals through the door. Our sales process was pretty similar, the Sandler sales process that everyone knows, right? And we just had a really tight dispo strategy as well that allowed us to have pretty strong profits on the back end after we locked these deals up.
And just remind me, that was in what market?
I'm sorry, I missed the beginning of your question. We're in Pittsburgh, in the Pittsburgh metropolitan area.
Okay.
So the whole metropolitan area, which is about 2.5 million people.
Now, was there other than pursuing, this passion of the insurance vehicles for multiplying capital, do you see anything in your market where the wholesaling was becoming less viable, or was it more just time to move into a different pursuit?
It was really to move into a different pursuit. I didn't love wholesaling because I did feel like, for some of the deals, we were getting more. We were kind of taking more from off the top than we might have. I don't know. It was kind of hard for me from an integrity base to do that. Some people can do it, and really there's a service there that helps a lot of distressed homeowners. But for me, I was having a little bit of an issue with telling people one thing and then, beating them down in price, which is basically what you're doing when you're wholesaling. But there's a lot of good people that do it, but it didn't sit right for me from an integrity basis. And it was just sort of natural. I was getting more clients with the creative capitalist business. I really believe in it. It's helped me get to financial freedom in like 20 months, obviously in conjunction with real estate investing. And I think that for most real estate investors and entrepreneurs, it is the strategy that helps you amplify your wealth over your life. So I was like, hey, I want to go full time into this. I really believe in it. I think it's a tremendous strategy for many people. And I felt like that was something that I could stand behind for quite a long time. So that was really the transition. It was natural. No hard feelings on both sides. It was just something that I felt more comfortable doing, because I'm very much an integrity-based person, and if I don't believe in something, it started to get hard for me to sell that.
Now, obviously, you developed a skill set working for that real estate firm that you've now left. Let's talk, before we move into your core discussion, let's talk about your current portfolio. How'd you find it? How'd you fund it? What are you going to do to it? Is it a hold? Is it a sell? It is a burr? But let's talk about what you own, and I know some of it's under contract, but kind of like what's your target, how you find it, how you fund it, what are you going to do?
Sure, let's open it up. So my first deal ever was a house hack. So I bought a 3-unit building, and for your listeners that don't know, a house hack is you buy a building, it could be a single family home, could be a multifamily property, and you live in one of the units, and you have other tenants that pay for your living expenses. Much to my wife's chagrin, we're still living in the 3-unit. We will next year not be living in it, but I've convinced her to continue to live in it with me for the time being. That was August of 2020.
Okay.
And pretty recent. And then we started to buy burrs. So I bought a 3-unit building that I could throw a rock from where I currently live, and I burred it. Then I bought a single family home and I burred it. Then I bought a 6-unit and I burred it. Then I bought a multi-million-dollar Airbnb. Multi-million. I mean, it's $1.1 million Airbnb in Colorado. It's $1 million Airbnb. And I just closed on a 3-unit building. In those 3 units and the next 12 units that we have in escrow right now, Ian, are all burrs as well. I found them through wholesalers, found them through direct mail, and I have that with a partner. I'm buying those with a partner. So, yeah.
And then, okay, that's excellent. So, your acquisitions are in different markets. You started with a house hack, which I think anyone that's been listening to this show or watches our social, if you want to be in this game and you are renting or own a single family home and still have a car payment, stop. Begin house hacking and go buy a car that you can afford with no note. You're going to save, depending on where you live, $30,000 to $50,000 a year by doing those 2 things. And now you can become an investor. It's just a no-brainer. So good for you. The direct mail, that's great. I think people underestimate direct mail for finding deals. I did a couple campaigns with Ballpoint, and I must confess I haven't converted one, but I had some really good leads that might just be a matter of time. Really good assets by the beach that the older clientele responded well to the Ballpoint. I've already met them in person. I do believe one will sell to me when the time is right. And that was a pretty modest spend. It was under $1,000 campaign. Now with your burrs, I know you have a partner. Are you funding with like a fix and flip loan, doing some changes and then doing a traditional refi? Take us through the burr.
Yeah.
Well, and I apologize for the listeners. BRRRR is an acronym, and Clay's going to help me, so I'm probably going to botch it, but you're going to buy, you're going to rehab, you're going to rent it out, and you're going to repeat. I think I got
refinance.
So,
you missed refinance.
Okay, refinance. Yeah. So I always miss one of the R's. It's like I know what it is, and I drop the R. But so take us through this this BRRRR process.
And let me just tell you why I love it. Right. The reason why you love it is because most people, when they're starting out, or in general, real estate is a cash poor business. As a real estate investor, it's kind of like being addicted to a very significant drug. You just want to keep buying and buying and buying. And the way that you can buy and buy and buy over long periods of time is if you're able to recycle your cash, okay? The way that you recycle your cash is through the BRRRR method. Simply, you're purchasing a property that's below market value. You're rehabbing it, so you increase the value, you force equity. You rent it out at a higher rate that you would have if you just purchased it right away. Maybe you purchase it and it's not even livable. Then you go back to the bank and you say, hey, I believe this property is worth this amount. I'm going to get a long-term loan and I'm going to refinance it out. It could be a 25-year AM, it could be a 30-year AM, 20-year AM, whatever. And you can refinance all your money out. You can refinance more than all your money out. In the worst case scenario, if it comes in below what you think it's worth, you're still going to get a 30% return, a 40% cash on cash return, a 20%, which would be better than if you just put your money down on it. That's why I love it. That's why I love it. Because, I wasn't a trust fund kid. I had no money when I came into real estate, nothing. That's why I started with a house hack and built the equity and then leveraged my life insurance to continue to buy more real estate. And I've been able to amass a portfolio that I really don't deserve, right, in terms of the amount of income that I make in that period in my life, because I was able to recycle my cash. So I hope that was helpful. I don't know, Ian, if that was sort of comprehensive, but the way that I, and to answer your other question, the way that I purchased all of these properties with short-term financing, so either through private lenders or hard money. So, you can go out and find a hard money lender and they'll loan up to a certain either loan to cost or after repair value. Loan to cost is your loan in proportionate to your total cost or the after repair value of what they think that the property is going to be worth. Usually hard money lenders loan up to 75%, 70%. And so as long as you purchase the property correctly, your rehab's tight, and you have a really strong after repair value, you can basically go into these properties with very little money, if any money. So we use private lenders and we use hard money.
And I appreciate you diving through that. And for a lot of people, a successful BRRRR is getting all your money back out or maybe some more. But I agree with you. If you have to leave some money in the deal, it would be a non-successful, unsuccessful BRRRR if you're not over a 20% rate of return. And you're right, you might be 40, 50, 60. I mean, it could be 100% rate of return. I mean, I've done some refis where I had to leave a little bit of money in the deal. I might have argued with the appraised value and didn't win, but it's okay. I think a lot of people get frustrated that they can't scale because they buy, they rehab, and they go for that big refi later, and maybe they're a little bit short on the appraised value and they can't get all their money back. It's okay to leave some of your money in the deal. It's going to have an excellent rate of return, assuming it's an income property. So I'm glad you pointed that out. One other thing on your personal investments, sounds like you're fond of Airbnb. I have some Airbnb in my portfolio as well. How are you managing those? It sounds like you have one in Colorado, and I know you don't live there. So enlighten the audience on kind of how you're tackling Airbnbs remotely. Yeah,
and let me just one last thing related to BRRRR, and I think that your listeners will find this super valuable. When you go to refinance your BRRRR, you know what you can do? You can bring, this is what I do every time. I print out multiple pages of here's properties that I think it's worth. Here's my comps. I give them comps. I just give it to them. I make it, a 10-page, 15-page, beautifully designed package, and I just give it to the appraisal. And human beings are human beings, right? They take a lot of things on first value and first impression. So I'll put like a candle or have my property manager put a candle in maybe one of the units as soon as they get into the property, because that cements in their mind that this is a clean property, it's well taken care of. Or you put different scents in the properties. You can look up different scents that, kind of go into someone's psychology to make sure that they think it's a clean place. I do that every time because I've gotten after repair values that might have been a little higher than I anticipated because I was willing to go the extra mile. And guys, this is if you pull out this refinance, it's debt So the government doesn't tax you. So you can add 20, 30, 40, 50, $100,000 additional to your income every single year by completing these burrs, and you're not taxed on it. So I just wanted to make that point. I think that your listeners could really benefit from kind of going the extra mile to approve the appraiser, and you can contest an appraisal if they're not at a level that you think it's worth. And related to the Airbnbs, yeah, so
Clay, one thing we jump in. I wasn't planning on talking about this, but I think a lot of the audience or some of the audience might know that I'm still a certified general appraiser in the state of Florida, and I did commercial appraisal for over 5 years, hotels, golf courses, retail centers, apartments, all this stuff. So to your point, now a lot of the properties I was appraising were large and significant, but people would just like leave a key or, hey, go meet the maintenance man, or open this lockbox, show yourself around. And here I am doing the inspection, and we're all doing our best as human beings, but if you're an owner and you're being appraised, your assets being appraised, take the time to pull the comps that you think are the most helpful, the ones that are truly apples to apples. Have your property looking good. I'm in Florida, so have it nice and cool. Have the air conditioning knocked down. So it's, I think Clay's idea about the candle, I never thought about that. But you want the place to smell good. You want it to be nice and cool, because they're going to infer things. What if you walk into the same asset and it's hot and it's dark and the lights are all off and you had to open a lockbox to get in there, and it seems musty, probably because all the windows are shut, the blinds are drawn, the AC's off. So I wasn't planning on talking about this. I'll stop probably with that. But don't underestimate the human-to-human part of working with appraisers. And I'm speaking as an actual appraiser. I don't go write these reports anymore. I've kind of moved on from that in my life. But appraisers are humans, and appraisal is an art form, not a science. And give these men and women the best comps you can find. Have the property looking good. Don't underestimate it. Don't just send them an address and text them a lockbox code. It's lazy and it can hurt you. All right, Clay.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. And I think it's super relevant. We're dealing with people here, guys. It's not just numbers. Related to Airbnb, the question was, why did I do that? I think, or talk a little bit about it. Here's the thing. My wife's going to listen to this. She's from Colorado. She wanted to buy an Airbnb. She wanted to move out to Colorado. She saw this place. It was, where she grew up in this town in the Rocky Mountains. It's right next to Rocky Mountain National Park, right next to the largest freshwater lake in Colorado, 30 minutes from Winter Park, 30 minutes from another ski resort. I forget. It's not coming to me off the top of my mind. It was a deal. It was an old property that we knew that we could add value to. We thought that it was, we put a little bit of money into it. We could probably create $1 million of equity. There was just so much there, and people didn't want it because they didn't want to, get their hands dirty. And we just saw it, and we thought it was going to be a diamond in the rough. Turns out it was. We're running it now, and it's incredibly successful. People are going up there for Rocky Mountain National Park. You have the families going up there to celebrate. It's got the largest Labor Day celebration in this for mountain towns in Colorado. It was just really a good deal, and we want to go there too. Selfishly, right? That's the reason why we buy real estate. That's the reason why we try to build wealth, is because we want to enjoy the fruits of our labor. Well, this was a way for us to purchase an asset, be able to visit it sometimes during the year, and have it cash flow. And it's cash flowing. So nice. A lot of hard work. My wife was out there for a month, sort of scheduling contractors. We had this 70 shag carpet. It was brutal, but we went through it. We painted it. We made it really nice, and we're going to progressively add more value to it over the years, and we'll be able to visit it. So we picked that.
Clay, let me jump in right there. So if you could enlighten the audience, I know what my deals in Florida do, traditional rental versus Airbnb. The same asset, what do you think it would do in a traditional annual rental versus your nice furnished Airbnb? Not even comparable. We'll probably gross 170 this year, right? Maybe 180 a traditional rental. I don't know, 24. Yeah, right. It's a mountain town. It's a 5-bedroom, 4,000 square foot place. So maybe 40. So it's quadruple.
I mean, it's quite
and your management. I know you don't live there, but you might go visit. And by the way, guys, that's another fun reason to own Airbnb. You can go actually enjoy your properties. My Airbnb in Neptune Beach, I can go down there. I can block it. I'm doing 4 more in Atlantic Beach. I can go down there and enjoy the property. I'm out and I'm renting it again. You cannot do that with traditional real estate. Now, Clay, jump into the operations side. I assume you have third-party management.
Actually, we do not. We do not have third-party management. My wife grew up, like I said, my wife grew up going to this town. We know a lot of people in the town. We have people that check on it constantly. We have Ring cameras. We have sophisticated property management applications. And, we frankly, before we did this, we rented our place for a little bit, the place that we currently reside in, and another one of our units to cut our teeth in sort of remote management. So we manage it all completely remotely. For the time being, we think that that's a sustainable way to do it because we do want to start to build that business a little bit more. And, we want to get a couple more luxury Airbnbs in different markets. And don't mind the management. It's kind of easy.
Do you mind sharing any tips or software or things that have allowed you to do it remotely?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is the people in that area. We have a reliable cleaner. We have an incredibly reliable group of handy people. We have people that we can call. We're connected to the community. So it was, again, I don't know if I would recommend this for everyone, but it was easier for us because we did have the relationships already built in. The management software that we use is Guesty. I don't know if it's one of the property management softwares that people use for luxury Airbnbs. It's worked for us.
Yeah, I'm using Guesty right now, and there are competitors, but I think Guesty is good. Another one that I'll plug because I thought they do a pretty good job is the Beyond pricing app. It's an algorithm. They only take 1% of your revenue, and they tend to be able to get you maybe 17 to 22% better revenue and more bookings. So that 1% is absolutely washed out. You don't notice it. So Beyond pricing app is one that I would suggest to the audience as well. At least give it a look. I like that. So Clay's got great resources in Colorado. It allows him to run his Airbnb without paying that 20% or more Airbnb management fee, which is, I mean, if you're doing 180, it'll make you gasp to pay the 20% management fee on that. So that's I appreciate you sharing some of those details, and it's also one of the, let's be honest, Airbnb is also one of the only ways you can get into these high-end properties. You wouldn't be able to acquire them and burr them without an Airbnb vehicle. So practically speaking, like Clay said, it might do $2,000-$3,000 a month in traditional rental. It's going to do like $12,000 a month or more in Airbnb. So,
absolutely.
All right. Well, Clay, if you want, one of your main talking points that we discussed before the show is your creative capitalist brand and what you're helping people do once they have success, and maybe even early on, like you said, if you wouldn't mind jumping into your brand and what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about here today, Burrs. We were talking about cash flow. Real estate investors, entrepreneurs need places to put their money. A lot of times I talk to my clients and they say, hey Clay, I have money that 6, 7, 8% that I allocate every month to CapEx, to repairs, to taxes, to insurance. And I just have money that sometimes comes in with refinance or a flip, and I just don't know where to put it. And so what I learned from my mentor, the gentleman that was worth about $150 million, right, developer in Washington, D.C., is he had a series of these life insurance strategies in which he flowed all of his, capital expenditures, repairs. Sometimes he'll get a big refinance and he'll put his money in here and he stuffed it in here. And these things give you 4 to 6% compounded over your lifetime. And what's really, really cool about him, and one of the reasons why, this gentleman was able to do all of this by himself, is your money, when you put it in there, is going to work for you 4 to 6%. And you can leverage it like a line of credit and go out and buy real estate, which is the reason why I was able to purchase all these birds. I was just able to recycle and replenish my capital over these past couple of years, is you can leverage it like a line of credit and your money is still compounding at that 4 to 6%. Now, I'm sure people that are listening to this are saying, this sounds too good to be true, right? I mean, my money's working in two places. What's the catch? Well, it's life insurance, right? So there's a period of time in which you need to pay for the expenses related to life insurance. There's a death benefit, because this is whole life insurance. This is a specifically designed whole life insurance contract with a mutual insurance company. And so there's a death benefit that goes to your heirs tax-free, but you still have to pay for that. You got to pay for the commissions, for the agents. Like myself, I help people set these things up. So for the first couple of years, the money that you put in, you're going to access 75, 85, maybe 95% of it up until like the fifth, sixth year, depending on your age and health. And so for people that are thinking sort of short term, it's sometimes people can't get over the fact that there's a time period in which you got to pay in and your money's not going to show up 1-to-1. But over your lifetime, it's going to return that 4 to 6%. It's creditor and asset protected. You can leverage it over your lifetime so that money is continuing working for you uninterrupted. And then you can continue to use the real estate, the the Airbnbs, your business, investing in people or marketing expenses to pay that back. So if you look over a period of time of 10, 15, 20 years, just like we look at real estate, the ability for you to create so much more wealth by using this vehicle as your opportunity fund, as your savings vehicle, is immense.
So I have some working knowledge of like the infinite banking concept, but I don't think it's going to be familiar to this audience. So what I know is, and I'll just say a few broad pieces and you can drill down.
Yeah.
So my understanding is that, like, okay, it's a whole life insurance product and you want to have like a low death benefit. So you have, better premiums than you can get in. You start funding the policy and then it compounds, you said 4 to 6, or I think I've heard 4 to 7, whatever. It compounds uninterrupted. And let's say I put $100,000 in, it's going to stay in compound. And then I draw a line of credit off of that. You got the creditor protection. And if I need money for like a down payment or a car or a rehab, or I think what you're going to say later is some of your clients actually park like operating capital in there and drop it. But we'll see. I hadn't thought about that. That's clever. But I'm sure you know the number. But if you're compounding 6% a year, I imagine you double your money in less than, like 8-9 years, something like that. So you leave your money in there. If you have no deals to do, it's still compounding. A lot of real estate guys I've heard use this because as a real estate guy myself, I like to have cash reserves. Cash reserves take you through, they can carry you through recessions, they can carry you through vacancy, they can carry you through a lot of bad things. You're not going to go belly up if you have good cash reserves. But those cash reserves are usually sitting in people's operating accounts. So what Clay's talking about, and I'm not going to take his thunder, is putting those larger funds of money into one of these insurance vehicles and let it compound. And then when you finally need it because you find an investment deal or a life event happens or whatever, you pull it out, but you pull it out as a line of credit so it still keeps compounding. I'll pause there, Clay.
No, I think you got it. I think really the gist of what you said was this is just an alternative to a savings account. And what's really special about it is if you take your money out of your savings account, what meager interest that you're being given on a savings account, that disrupts the interest that you could earn on that, right? If you have your money in here, $100,000, $200,000, $1 million, if you take the money out, and by taking the money out, you're just getting a policy loan, a loan against the value of your cash in your life insurance contract, that money is still compounding over your life. So you never ever interrupt the interest that could be accrued over your life. What does that mean in terms of 20 years? It could be millions of dollars depending on the amount of cash value that you have in your life insurance contract that you can continue to replenish and reuse over your lifetime and then pass on to your children tax-free. That's the power of using this. But again, this is not a magic pill. I always say this. I think that a lot of people say this is the only way to put your money in savings or as an opportunity fund. Now, I think what this is doing is this is allowing your capital to just be a little more efficient and effective. There is a loading period, again, in which when you put cash in, it's not necessarily going to be dollar in to dollar out. But after you sort of hit that initial period, your money's going to be working for you every single day, no matter what, and you can continue to use it over your lifetime.
I mean, I personally like it because everybody knows the money's sitting in your operating or your savings account. It's like a melting ice cube, especially right now. Inflation running in real life, it's probably double digit. I mean, we know it's high, and so like if I hold money, if I hold $100,000 today, next year it's effectively maybe worth 90. I'm losing money rapidly now. I still keep large cash reserves because that's part of my investment strategy. And actually, this is a good segue point. Let's say I take my cash reserves, I put them in one of your whole life insurance products that's compounding, and then I want to go to a bank. And a lot of times, especially in the private money world or the hard money world, and traditional banking as well, they want to see like your cash on hand. There's a lot of investment loan programs that'll give you like 5 times your free cash. So can I show them that account? And do you know how banks are treating these holdings?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously this is a bank by bank basis, right? So I can't speak for any bank, but the banks that I've worked with and many of my clients have worked with, they treat it as pure cash on your balance sheet. I mean, if you fill out a PFS, personal financial statement, they're going to ask, hey, do you have any cash value in life insurance? Every single personal financial statement, because you can pledge that as collateral to if you want to do the 7x or the 5x of your cash reserves. So banks will treat it as actual liquid cash reserves because it is accessible, because it is liquid. So if anyone's concerned about that, I think you should still have cash on hand. I think that most people should have, especially if you're a real estate investor, there should be some liquidity just in pure cash. But a lot of my clients will put the majority of their cash reserves in these policies so that over time they're going to win. They're going to win.
And Clay, let's say I put in, let's use easy numbers. I put in $100,000. I let it season, for lack of a better term. And now, how much leverage can I take off of that $100,000?
Yeah. So in year one, are you saying?
I know it does grow. So go ahead and walk us through like year one. I put it in. When and how much can I take off?
Yep. So year one is you're going to have access to about 65 to 75% of that. Now the LTV, and not a lot of people talk about this, but you can take up to $90,000 to $95,000 depending on the life insurance company of that balance that is, your cash value balance. So $75,000, 95% of that. There has to be a margin there because they're not going to loan up to 100%, just like a bank's not going to loan up to 100% of your real estate. Because there has to be, hey, if you don't pay this back, that they want to have a little bit of a balance difference, right? A delta between the amount owed and the equity in your policy. Year two, depending on your health and age, you're going to get 85%, 80%. And then by year 5, year 4, year 6, again, this is all health and age basis because this is life insurance. You're going to be able to break even and you're going to have access to 90 to 95% of that total.
Gotcha. And thank you for that. And so a couple of other features that I thought were unique. So it is creditor protected, correct?
Yep. So that's one of the interesting thing about this is many real estate investors and entrepreneurs are people that are sort of privacy oriented. It doesn't show up if you're sued in most states. Obviously, there's some more progressive states in which suits can be a little more aggressive, right? In my state, in Florida, I mean, give me a break. Pennsylvania,
freedom state, maybe.
Yeah, right. Pennsylvania, we're it's protected from creditors as well. If they sue you, they can't touch it. From a perspective of a real estate investor, that's very, very attractive, right? Because it just shows up less assets on your books. You're less of an attractive person to be sued if you are in the case of being sued. If you take out a loan too, it doesn't show up on your debt to income ratio, which is really, really interesting for most investors, especially early on, because maybe you're in a W-2 and you're trying to transition to real estate full time, and you're thinking about credit, you're thinking about debt. What's a private contract between you and the life insurance company? So what that means is it doesn't show up on your credit score. So it's not going to affect your credit. Even if you have tons of loans outstanding, it's not going to even appear, which is very, very advantageous for real estate investors, especially if they're trying to get loans. As you know, it's difficult if you don't have if you're self-employed to get
and that makes sense. I mean, essentially, it is your money. Now, your money has now gone to work on behalf of some life company, but it is your money, so it does make sense that if you take it off as credit, it's not really leverage. It's more like recovering some of your funds that have been compounding. Interesting. I don't currently use this strategy, but I am a fan of it, and I've been excited to talk about this topic, and I'm glad you brought it up. For most of your clients, do you tell them like any kind of ratios or rules of thumb? Like if somebody, let's just stick with easy numbers. Somebody's got $100,000 that's sitting like in operating, or I have a large apartment complex in Georgia. We always have over $100,000. Well, we usually have over $100,000 just sitting in operating, and it's 83 units, and you need to have. It's smart to have $500 to $1,000 a unit, just in case. You never know what's going to happen. And but what do you tend to see your wealthy clients doing? I like to move into the topic of like, is this a good avenue to park real estate operating type funds?
So two things actually here. The first thing is I think it's a tremendous place to park it. Again, we talked about you got to have some liquidity on the books. So I usually recommend it's a comfort level. It's very much a comfort level, because when you start to put these policies into play, you might have one policy. You start with a smaller policy, which is sort of how I recommend everyone start. Whatever your comfort level is, make it a little smaller, because in a couple of years people start to see, hey, no, this is really attractive. I'm going to start more policies. But again, this is a comfort basis. I would say maybe set a policy up for $40,000. Right? Depends on the cash flow from the property. Depends on how much you want it. There's a lot of other factors, but maybe $40,000, keep $60,000 in just straight liquidity. What's the age of the asset? I mean, there has to be a little bit more of information. Is your roof? How was your roof? Right? Different things that really could be tragic. But again, you can use on a good majority of your cash right away, 30 days after you set up one of these policies. Another thing that sometimes I've seen people do is, if they're syndicators or they're in partnerships, they create these things called buy-sell agreements, which are essentially life insurance contracts on partners, that if someone ends up wanting to leave a partnership or someone dies, you can funnel your cash flow and your operating expenses through these agreements. And then if someone dies, then the death benefit could pay off the other partner, or that someone could leave the partnership and it could pay off the other partner. There are ways to sort of structure these things very creatively, so you're effectively insulated from partnership issues, deaths, which happen not very often, but it's just another way to have insurance around a partnership, especially if you're dealing with a very large asset. It could be a good way for you to not only protect your downside, but start to implement these sort of ways of warehousing your capital in a more efficient and effective way.
No, I think it's smart. I think it's something that more people should be taking a look at, and myself included. This may be something that I look into, if anything, just for diversity, because we're all going to keep, as you start to have success, you're going to end up with lump sums of capital. A lot of us real estate guys roll right into more real estate, but in these transitional times, or let's just say hypothetically, somebody's not comfortable today investing in real estate assets. Well, and maybe they just sold some assets in 18, 19, 20, 21, or maybe they just sold yesterday. Yeah. If they're not going to do a 1031, they've already taken the money. this might be something that they consider putting a chunk of their money into and let it grow. And then by the time you find something you want to invest, you're going to pull off that money as a line of credit. That does raise one more question. What would be the timing if I'm like, ring, Clay, I found a deal. I gotta fund this escrow deposit. How long till I can get that money?
You put in a one sheet to a life insurance company. They could get it out to you next day, 2 days, depending on if it's the weekend, obviously business days, right? Depending on where you are in the country, it could be 3 days at the latest, but they're very quick in the turnaround, kind of like a wire, right? Like a wire from a bank account.
Well, that makes sense. So it wouldn't really slow you down with any actual business operations. I think
no, it's not like it's going to take it. It's not like it's going to take you a week to get it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that you've done a good job explaining the concept. Anything else you want to touch on with that concept of infinite banking?
Yeah, one quick thing here. So, as real estate investors, right, we're always sort of chasing the next deal, but I've seen people that are very, very successful investors think about their investing horizon in 40 years or in 30 years. And what a lot of these guys and gals want is they want guarantees and they want sustainable growth. So it's really sexy to talk about the burst strategy, but the burst strategy might not work in 10 years. You might have to shift to a different investment philosophy. Well, when you get a life insurance contract, there is guarantees built into the contract. With this, with the life insurance company that I use, I think is the best one to use for this specific strategy because of its flexibility and early look at easy access and liquidity. You have a 3% guarantee, and then you can participate because it's a mutual life insurance company. You're a part owner in the upside dividend. So last year was 5.75% of the declared dividend. You get to participate in that upside. In an up market, if interest rates increase, your return, the declared dividend is also going to increase because these are very conservative investments that the life insurance companies invest in and then redistribute back to the policyholders. So the reason why I said that was because it's very, very sexy to think about leverage over your life. And especially if you're a younger person, you think, I'm just going to go hit home runs and just keep over leveraging. Well, I think at some point you have to start to think about, how do I protect myself in downside risk? How do I have some sort of vehicle that can align with my goals as a long-term investor? Maybe not even real estate, maybe investor in general, maybe you want to buy small businesses, maybe you want to build wealth in other ways, but that's going to align with me over a long period of times in which I have guarantees and in which I know is going to be there for me if I need it for early liquidity, that's protected from any sort of lawsuit, and it's going to be growing over my lifetime.
Yeah, and a lot of us real estate guys, it kind of depends on where you are in your journey. Early on, this probably wouldn't sound all that attractive, but you start having some success, and you're like, well, what can I guarantee doesn't get taken away from me? Like, hypothetically, you go from zero, and now you're like, okay, I used to have nothing. I had a couple $100 in my checking account. Well, what if all of a sudden you're worth, $3 million, $5 million, $10 million, and you have, hundreds of thousands of dollars just on hand, liquid. You might start thinking, where can I put some of this money where I am all nearly 100% guaranteed it will not disappear and it will grow. And I think that's where Clay's concept is probably most attractive. And I'm sure Clay would tell you, look, maybe start this when you're young and just have it be like a part of your pie chart, and it might just be a smaller part when you're young and it grows bigger as you get older and more wealthy. But I do think it's kind of the gas in the brake or the tortoise in the hare, but I don't necessarily view it as a brake. It's more of a safety net because it's kind of forcing you, and you can't, you can pull it out as a loan and go use it, but it's going to grow if you leave it alone. So you're really pretty heavily incentivized just to kind of treat this money as like out of sight, out of mind.
Exactly. And we can structure these things in creative ways. We work with people with inheritances. We work with people with business buyouts. We do real estate investments. We can do pretty much anything with this. It's just, how do we align this with your financial goals so that we can get you to freedom, abundance, safety, and frankly, being able to do what you want faster.
All right. Well, you're an ambitious young man. I don't think you've said. How old are you?
25.
See, I finally feel old on this show. All right. Well, I was going to ask you, your life goals, but you're like an arrow drawn, just ready to shoot out. So, what are some of your goals? Where's Clay headed?
Oh well, I'm in a couple of years, in due time, I'm excited to be a father. I'm not a father yet, so I'm not breaking the news on this show, but I'm really excited to be, a father for my future children. I have a tremendously supportive and loving partner, and we had a COVID wedding postponed, so we're getting married next year officially, even though she is my wife. Officially.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And so that's one of the things that I'm most looking forward to. And really, if I were to say it, I can't say it in terms of a goal, but I can say it in terms of I'm excited to chase my potential. I'm really, really interested in the mechanisms of how someone goes from nothing to building tremendous amounts of wealth. And I think the knowledge, the technology, the strategies that we have access to today, 20 years ago we didn't have access to. People weren't listening to podcasts like this. People weren't investing in burrs like random people like me. I had nothing, and I was able to invest in all this real estate and get to light financial freedom very quickly. Anyone can do it, and so I'm really excited to see where I go in life and how many people I can impact with the Creative Capitalist firm.
Well, your energy and enthusiasm are palpable and contagious, so I like that. It's funny because I had a similar conversation with the producer of this podcast, Sammy, and she's closer to your age than mine. Not yet 30, but we were kind of debating about like how people used to gain wealth in the previous generations versus now, and kind of wealth gaps. And it does seem pretty well shown that wealth gap is actually an issue, and perhaps a growing issue. But however, I think one silver lining is there are more unique and creative ways for, like, I don't come from anything. My parents were school teachers, and late in life my dad became an attorney, but it didn't directly affect me as like wealth and finance. So I self-started from being a high school football teacher to where I am now, very comfortable. And it sounds like you don't come from any particular silver spoon background. So here we are, two guys that have pulled it off, and there's just more ways than ever. You could watch podcasts and YouTube videos and find a mentor and just be eager to learn. And I think it's an exciting time for somebody that has like a fire in their belly like you do, and clearly I do as well. So it's fun to have you on and just see the contagious 25-year-old energy.
And it's really been a pleasure to be on. I appreciate the opportunity. I hope that some of your listeners take something away from this conversation today, and I'd be happy to talk to any of them related to this, or investing in burr real estate, or luxury Airbnbs, or how to build wealth in general, or whatever. I love talking about this stuff, and I really appreciate the opportunity, Ian.
Well, wonderful. Tell us when you're not solving the world's financial problems, what do you do for fun?
Well, we have this Airbnb in Colorado, and we love hiking. We love going outside. We love swimming and hiking, and we do we really love traveling, and I'm a pretty voracious reader, and it's really outdoor activities, working out, challenging my mind in that way, and trying to find a lot of like-minded people too. Friendship is super important to me, and trying to surround myself with people that are enriching and challenging and help me grow and I can contribute to is something that's really that I really like to do as well.
Well, I'm excited to see where you end up. We might have to have you back on in a couple years. I definitely see a bright future for you. Well, where can people find Clay?
Yeah. So you can get me at creative-capitalist.com. That's sort of my website. You can kind of go into some of the videos that I've created related to the stuff that we described here today. I'm on all social medias, Clay Hepler. You can text me at 412-552-3029. Don't call me because I probably won't pick up because I get a lot of spam calls. So shoot me a text. I'd love to talk to you about anything and help you on your financial freedom journey.
Well, that's very generous of you. At my age, at 40, I no longer give out my cell phone for text on the show, but I love you all just the same. All right. Well, this has been a lot of fun. Clay, thank you very much. And as always, we encourage the audience, if you made it this far, you're awesome. You've made it almost an hour in, and I hope you've taken something from this episode. Please be sure to rate and subscribe, because that gets us better boosting in Spotify, YouTube, iTunes, wherever you're listening to this, and it helps us out a little bit. And for now, I want to go ahead and sign off, and thank you, Clay. It's been a real pleasure. And this is the Yield Coach, Ian Brown, telling everybody to lace up and leave it all on the field. Yield Coach out.
Love it.